Hi, everyone. This is Garrett Heater, producing artistic director of Chelsea Opera, and this is our very first episode titled Hot Tea and High Seas with Chelsea Opera. And I'm so pleased that Laura Strickling is our very first guest for this series.
Hello.
Hi, Laura. How are you doing?
I am well. I'm super excited to be here.
Great. And I want to get the most important question answered right away. What kind of tea are you drinking?
I have a Tazo Lotus Blossom decaf because it's 8 p.m. and I'd like to sleep tonight.
And I'm drinking, yeah. That is beautiful. Yeah.
This is my a vintage find. It's a vintage Villeroy and Bach Acapulco, and it is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. So
yeah,
I'm just excited to be. I think every beverage is improved by the glass or mug or cup that it is consumed from. So
right. And I'm drinking a black cherry berry. Celestial Seasonings. I ran out of tea, so I actually had to go buy some, get it in my Fox mug. It looks a little dumpy compared to your beautiful cup and saucer. Anyways, so first things first, Laura, congratulations on the release of your album, Confessions.
Thank you.
Congrats. And do you want to talk to us a little bit about the little battle that your album was in with Jonas Kaufmann's Christmas album?
Well, it's not very often that an art song CD makes a splash like that. And I was more surprised than anyone. And so when it started, like when this thing happened and I was like number one over Kaufmann's Christmas CD, I thought, well, surely that's a glitch. And then I told my producers, like my CD label, I was like, I think we're number one. And they were like, I don't think so. And then they went and looked and they were like, I think you are. It means absolutely nothing except that it's wonderful because, I'm such a proponent of art song. And I think art song traditionally has gotten a bit of the kind of short stick of kind of promotion and visibility in the field of classical music. So it just really felt good for, art song to have a little battle with the most famous baritone in the world.
Absolutely. And we're gonna talk more about how exciting it is for your album to be released. But tell us right now, where are you? What are you doing there?
I live in St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. My husband got a job here 6 years ago. So this is where we are, and this is where I've been sitting out the pandemic since I ran away from New York City and rehearsals with the Chelsea Opera.
I know. I've told that story so many times about the double bill in March, The Parting and The House on Kronenstrasse, two separate pieces by Tom Trapullo and Ben Moore. And I tell people it's like the saddest thing because we were 2 weeks away from opening. Obviously, you were in the cast, and I was assisting Lynn Hayden Finlay. And Lee was producing, and we were 2 weeks out. I think we had 25 tickets left before it became a sold-out run. Yeah, and in the middle of March, it was like just dominoes collapsing one after the other, and everybody was shutting their shows down in New York City. And it was just so sad to lose that experience, what would surely have been 2 lovely evenings at the opera. And
but it was absolutely the right decision at the time. We all
I know.
I arrived in New York on a Friday. Like I arrived in New York on a Friday, and before I got on the plane, I thought, is this a bad idea? It doesn't seem like it was iffy as to whether or not it was going to be a real problem. And by the time I got to New York 2 days later, like the day rehearsal started, everyone was kind of looking around, like none of us shook hands. When you start an opera rehearsal, everybody wants to get to know each other well. Yeah, you didn't know these people, but you give them a hug, and we were about to go through this big long journey together, and we all were like, hi. And then we had like 3 rehearsals, and then we did not get a chance to really get the piece on its feet or really become one as a cast, you know, that you, again, you look forward, you know, this is going to happen, you're going to really make friendships for life with these people, and everything, you know, musically and socially, and everything just stopped.
Just
And
stopped.
it just stopped. And so within, you know, I was only there in New York for 1 week, but it went from should I go to like, oh my God, everything needs to shut down and everyone needs to get out. And
Yeah.
now that was
Yeah.
like the day that Trump shut down flights to Europe. So I was worried that they were going to shut down flights to St. Thomas. So, you know, it was obviously it was the right decision, and they went along with the industry. But there was so much, there was so little information at that time. So we were all scared, and I
Yeah.
think we're all still a little scared because there's still just no end in, no definite end in sight, you know. And we want music to be able to be in front of people live again, and there's just something horrifying about an entire industry grinding to a halt.
Grinding
And
to a halt. Literally, everything has stopped.
everything.
Laura, I know that you have a history with the Chelsea Opera, and I was hoping you'd be able to share your experiences with the company and maybe share some anecdotes as well.
Well, you know, I actually don't have a long history with Chelsea Opera. I lived in New York for 4 years before I moved to the Virgin Islands. And obviously I'd gone to shows. My friends have done shows with Chelsea Opera. They've got a great reputation. And I've, you know, always wanted to work with Chelsea Opera. I did, but you know, I just had never had the opportunity. And when Tom Chapullo wrote The Parting, he wrote one of the roles for me, and I fell in love with this role and this human who actually existed. And so we premiered it on the West Coast, and he said, you know, did not even hesitate, because the chance to get back in that character's mind was, you know, not something I was about to turn down. Plus, I have, you know, the highest esteem for Tom Chapullo, and I would pretty much, you know, walk over fire for him. So not that working with Chelsea Opera is walking over fire, but like the fact that he asked me to do it, like I would do anything for him. So, you know, it was always, it's like a congruence of like amazing people I want to work with, amazing. They had this beautiful theater lined up that we were going to be working in, amazing director staff and musical staff. And it's really unfortunate that we didn't get to take it over the finish line. And, you know, who knows what will happen in the future? Who knows for any of us? But, you know, it really was this beautifully conceived program. And so hopefully in the future, we'll see what happens. But, you know, it was kind of this failure to launch. So I
I
don't know
know.
if I can say that I have worked with Chelsea Opera. The whole thing.
A little bit, a week's time with them. Um, you know, since we're talking about, you know, looking forward and trying to be optimistic about the spring and what that holds, and hopefully for sure by the summer, things will be blossoming again and artists will be working again. However, in the meantime, artists are having a really difficult time trying to further their careers when all of the opportunities that were made available to them are now gone. So what would your advice be for any artists at this time regarding their careers right now? How should they spend their time right now?
Well, if you're like me, you're not making money being a singer right now. And that is a little bit devastating. So maybe you have pivoted and found a way to pay your rent right now. Maybe you're depending on family. Maybe, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, people have found ways to feed themselves during this time, because obviously none of us are making money as in the thing we have spent our entire lives learning how to do. But the thing for me, outside of, you know, how do we just, you know, make sure we have the basics we need to continue living, is to invest in our community in every way we possibly can. So for me, what that has looked like is I work with composers a lot. And so I have a long-term project that actually I conceived last fall and then the pandemic has kind of changed the timeline, but it's called the 40 at 40 project. And so for my 40th birthday next year, I'm commissioning 40 songs from 40 composers. And so I'm trying to, you know, work with these composers to create more art is basically, that's the bottom line premise, is like that, you know, because of the, you know, time I have spent on this planet and the interests I have, I want to make sure that more art comes out of my art. And so 40 at 40 project is one way that I've been trying to invest back in the community, but another, it doesn't have to cost you anything. And that's just being there for other artists. Be a shoulder to cry on if they need to. Ask how you can help. So a composer needed a recording for a competition, and she wrote this really beautiful song cycle. So I have been, you know, she recorded the piano tracks in a studio in the States, and I've been recording the vocal tracks here, and then a sound technician puts them together, and it sounds pretty good considering the circumstances. But, you know, like, I'm not charging her for that, because that it not only sustains my practice needs, like it keeps me going. I have a really hard time practicing when I don't have specific goals. So there's a functional, like, it does help me. I'm practicing and, you know, keeping my voice in shape, and I'm learning music, and that makes me excited. I need to keep making art to feel happy, like, as a human. And then it helps her be able to enter this competition, and maybe she'll win, and that will help, you know, that will help her career. So thinking about ways, big and small, we can help everyone around us. This is a long answer, but, you know, I lived through the hurricanes in St. Thomas 3 years ago, and I saw firsthand how important it is to be a functional and giving member of your community. I grew up in Chicago, and I lived in DC, and I lived in New York, and I've always lived in big cities. And it was the first time I've lived in a small place where everyone makes sure that everyone around them is okay. And I saw it happen time after time, people giving from things they didn't even have, you know, much they would give. And so we need to take that same mentality. Music is a small community. How can we give out of the nothing we have in small and big ways?
That's really brilliant. I also enjoy what you said about really strengthening your relationships, strengthening the relationships that you have, and perhaps even forging new ones. Now, when you're talking about the project, 40 at 40, is that what it's entitled?
40 at 40, yeah.
So do you already know the 40 different composers? Is it 40 composers, or is it 40 songs from a different number of composers?
At the beginning of the project, I wasn't sure. I was like, okay, well, you know, because, you know, 40 at 40 is kind of an arbitrary number, and it's just based on, you know, the circumstances. But I was like, so is it going to be song cycles, or, you know, I didn't know. And it wasn't until I started talking to people, and then the stone kept rolling down the hill and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I never commissioned songs before, which is silly, because I didn't know I could. I just never really, it never occurred to me that I could do that. That's for, like, famous singers or whatever. That's for, like, important people. You can commission a song. Every single one of us can. And
yeah.
And so I just started asking, and people said yes. And so it turned into 40 songs by 40 composers. And
that's remarkable.
I'm excited about it. The things that are coming out of this, like, somebody wrote a song for, I'm not gonna say yet, because it hasn't been formally announced. This is, like, very, like,
I know.
But one of the composers wrote a song for soprano, piano, and kazoo, and I cannot wait to perform it. And just, like,
hopefully, you'll get the soprano part.
I get both. I get to do both soprano.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. And
I was kidding. I was joking.
Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun. And so, like, I just love
my gosh,
like, amazing creative stuff is coming up. And so that actually has been keeping me going, just kind of on a spiritual level too, because it is hard to be away from my musical community. I haven't made music with another musician in person in a really long time, and that's not just my job, it's my lifestyle, and it's my social life. It's kind of everything. And so the fact that We haven't seen anybody in a long time. It's
Yeah,
hard.
and in this brave new world that we're in, where we feel very much cooped up and small inside our little bubbles, but the truth is that's almost opening up the world to you, because exactly like you're saying, you're
Mhm.
creating opportunities for yourself that did not exist, maybe didn't even occur to you as being feasible when we were normal, or we were in the grind or moving at the speed of light every day, and not sitting back and saying, wait, I know 40 composers. I can commission a song from each of them. This is going to be great. So I am a firm believer that the best opportunities are the ones that we create for ourselves.
But the other
And
side of that coin is that, so the 40 at 40 was an idea I had before the pandemic, and thank God I did, because it's been helping me make it through. But I also, I've had this other disaster in my life in the hurricanes, and I was completely like, I could not do anything but survive for about 9 months afterwards. I still did all of my gigs. I never had to cancel anything, but I didn't think of any creative ideas. I wasn't using my artist brain because I was in like protection mode, and it was
sure.
almost impossible. I had a baby at the time, which was very small, and so I had to get out of bed every day and take care of that baby. But beyond that, it was very difficult to just put one foot in front of the other for a very long time. And so there's this part of me that like is like, hey, let's all seize the moment. But there's another part of me that knows that sometimes you can't seize the moment, and it's time to just kind of like focus on yourself and do what you need to do. Be a good member of your community, like in the functional ways you should and can be. But like, you don't have to write your magnum opus during a pandemic.
Right.
If you do, great. If you
Yeah.
don't, your time will come. Life is long, and you might have your amazing, fun, sustaining idea in 2021 or 2022 or 2025 or in 2030. Like, just because you're not doing like living your best life right now doesn't mean it won't happen in the future. So I try to keep encouraging people that like, you don't have to do amazing things right now. It's okay. It's a global pandemic. It's really bad. It's really bad, and we all hate it.
And it's good that you bring that up too, because right now you get these mixed signals, whether it's coming in from social media or whatnot, but people saying, wake up every day, do your best, take care of yourself, be creative, go bird watch, go write a poem, write a song, go for a walk, all this stuff. And then there's this other stream of consciousness that's coming in at us that says, take a nap. It's okay if you stay in bed for 20 more minutes. It's fine. It's okay if you don't drive anywhere today. It's fine. Listen to what your body is saying, that what you need right now, because that's what's best. So people just have to make that decision on their own, whether they're going to be extremely creative right now, and some people need that, or some people are saying, I can't. This is just not the time.
There's no right way to pandemic.
There's no right way to pandemic. That should be a bumper sticker or a shirt.
And there's no right way to be an artist during a pandemic or any other time in your life, because everyone has their pandemic. Like this, it could be the hurricanes I had, it could be a divorce, it could be like there are 90 million things that could throw everything you thought you could do and wanted to do into question. So like, just kind of keeping a long view that it may not be now, but it could be later.
Have you noticed anything maybe outside of your profession that the pandemic has changed for you personally?
Outside of my
Outside
profession.
of outside of your profession, outside of performing.
I mean, so I'm a mother, and my daughter is 4. And because we live on an island, we've actually been able to be in school a little bit this fall in person. But I have kind of a large network of other moms, and just kind of this bouncing around, how is this affecting our kids? Because of course it is, this is going to be something that we will all remember for probably the rest of our lives. And so I think a lot of us have a lot of fear and uncertainty as to how this is going to affect our kids. And also it's just very, very difficult to get anything done when your child is home all day and you don't have childcare, because you can't hire childcare because it's not safe to do so. I mean,
Right.
and so all of the things we might have done in the before are no longer available to us. And so, I don't think we know yet what the changes really will be. I think some of them will be lasting, but again, this island has recovered from a huge hurricane that I didn't think it could ever recover from. So right now, everything seems awful, and we don't know how we're going to claw our way back. But I actually have faith that somehow we will, because I've seen people come back from the worst and, thrive.
Absolutely. Now, thinking ahead, as you're saying, like clawing out from this, terrible place that we're in right now as a society, what is on the horizon for you aside from the 40 at 40?
Well, I mean, so I just released this CD this week. It's called Confessions. And again, another project that I actually started, get back to the hurricane, sorry. I started recording it before the hurricanes, then couldn't do anything because I was a mess for a long. Got back in the studio a year ago and finished recording, and then it takes a little time to put out. But I had time to take that project over the finish line into being released because of the pandemic. All of a sudden, I was on the road, gig traveling, and I was like, oh, I'm just sitting here. Oh my gosh, I can finally work on this recording. So that I had the time. And so now that's been released, and it's really been fun to have a positive thing to focus on. But so that CD has been a great project. The 40 of 40 project is a great project. Little things I'm doing for my friends. I when you asked me to do this Zoom, I jumped at it because this is connection, and this is connection to our community. It brings us together, and we all need that. So, I've done master classes for like grade schoolers who, just are so cute.
Yeah.
And, I have a 4-year-old, but I don't necessarily know how to communicate what I do to small children. So it was a challenge, and I loved it. And it was so great. And I will take any opportunity to just connect with people these days. And I mean, and really in all my life, because that's one of the reasons I'm in this gig, is I love people and I love communicating. And that's what I think is at the heart of being a musician.
And it really does sound, with the projects that you've discussed and the way that you're handling your current situation, it does sound like you love connecting with people. It sounds like that is a really intrinsic part of who you are as a performer.
I think so. People ask me all the time why I have ended up doing a lot more art song and oratorio than opera. I do some opera, but the bulk of my career is in art song and oratorio. And it really comes down to in opera, you are presenting a story, like watch this story. And in art song and oratorio, you are singing directly to the audience. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion, you there in the fifth row. Rejoice, rejoice. Rejoice.
Or else.
It's actually really a very relational art form. So, and then of course, when you shift it a little bit and do opera, that energy is pointing towards your castmates. And so then you find a different connection. But those connections are basically why I do this. So.
Great. Well, you know what? Our time together has come to an end. I hope that everybody who joined us today goes out and buys Laura Strickling's new album, Confessions, now battling with Jonas Kaufman for the #1 spot on Amazon.com. You want to say anything else about Confessions before we end the interview, Laura?
I just really believe in these composers, and I think one of the best ways to promote more music being made is to promote the people who are making new music right now. So, please go out and buy the CD, because it's a vote of confidence in what they're doing and in kind of new music as a whole.
Fantastic.
It shows the world that there is an economic advantage to supporting these things.
That is great. Very well said. Well, listen, I want to start a little tradition. Would you mind being the very first person to end this interview, Hot Tea and High Seas with Chelsea Opera? Could you end it on a high note for us?
I will. So I was recording this song today, and I will sing a high note, a section from that. I'm going to put the microphone a little further away. So There you go. I should have planned that out better.
No, it's great. It's great. Thank you so much, Laura Strickling. Break legs with the album sales. I already bought mine. It hasn't come yet, but I bought mine. All right, it's coming in the mail. Thank you to everyone for joining us for the inaugural, what is this episode? Our inaugural episode of Hot Tea and High Seas with Chelsea Opera. I'm Garrett Heater, the producing artistic director of Chelsea Opera, and this is Laura Strickling. Thank you for joining us today. And Laura, thank you so much for joining us and being numero uno.
Thank you. It was so fun.